My name is Vanessa Lopez, and I am testifying on behalf of Women for Gun Rights, a national organization of women committed to safeguarding the Second Amendment. I want to begin by addressing what I believe has become one of the most misleading narratives in this debate. The idea that one side represents common sense gun safety while the other is somehow indifferent to it is simply false. Everyone in this room wants safer communities. The real question is whether these bills actually do what their supporters claim they do. And on March 12th, I received a remarkably candid answer to that question. On that date, I attended a publicly accessible Zoom meeting hosted by the Rhode Island chapter of Moms Demand Action, during which Elizabeth Ryan, a member of Everytown's Policy Council, presented their legislative priorities, including S2726, the Responsible Firearms Purchasing Act, which would replace the standard blue card test with an 8-hour curriculum put on by the Attorney General and more other restrictions. During this Zoom meeting, there was a question and answer portion. When asked directly how this bill would address individuals with criminal intent, Ms. Ryan stated, and I quote, that there is no way to weed out people who have criminal intent, and further stated that she was not aware of many people who undergo this type of training for the purposes of harming someone.
There's no way to, I guess, sort of weed out people who have criminal intent, short of them going in there and saying, like, I want to learn how to shoot so I can harm someone. The idea would be by incorporating training on laws and on suicide prevention, that there would be some baseline education that we hope would go against that. But there's really I don't know of many people who have undergone gun training for the purpose of then being able to use it to hurt somebody.
I want this committee to fully appreciate the significance of that statement. This is not criticism coming from me or other opponents of this bill. That is an admission coming directly from someone who's advocating for them. She further acknowledged that the vast majority of individuals seeking to purchase firearms are not criminals, but law-abiding citizens exercising their rights under the Second Amendment.
I think the more important point is that the vast majority of people who want to purchase firearms are not criminals, are law-abiding, citizens, and they do have the right under the Second Amendment to possess firearms.
And that these proposed bills do not address the separate issue of criminals obtaining firearms through unlawful means.
Elizabeth, I don't know if you see the last question.
Sure. What if they get the gun illegally? So the reason that we would have the blue card structure is within the legal framework. So it would be for somebody who is seeking to purchase a gun legally. This sort of exists outside the separate problem of the illegal gun market, people who are utilizing all sorts of pathways to obtain illegal guns. This would solely be focused on enhancing the requirements going along with legal gun purchasing. We sort of have to deal with the illegal gun possession in a separate bill, a separate policy.
Right. Yeah. All right. Okay.
So here's the obvious question. If even the architects of these bills admit they have no measurable effect on public safety, who are they for? The same people Ms. Ryan acknowledged are not the problem. Therefore, if we intend to invoke the term common sense, we must apply that same standard consistently when considering other bills proposed here today, including but not limited to banning the possession of so-called assault-style weapons. Thank you, and I respectfully urge you to reject these anti-Second Amendment bills, including S2726. Let me give you guys the too long, I'm confused version of what it is you just watched, because I'm sure I'm going to get some questions. So, what you saw was me at the Rhode Island State House testifying against yet another bundle of anti-Second Amendment bills. These bills are being proposed by a group called Moms Demand Action and the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence. But really, I want to focus on Moms Demand Action here because they are probably one of the most well-known common sense gun advocacy groups in the nation. I say this with quotation marks because this is how they brand themselves as, but in actuality, they operate more as a business, and they are in the business of selling fear to the public with the end goal of eventually disarming American citizens. Okay? That is my belief. You can call me a conspiracy theorist if you like, but that is my belief. Now, Moms Demand Action is backed by an organization called Everytown, and Everytown is Bloomberg funded, okay? So, hello, very well-to-do organization. They have lots of resources, okay? And if you have been paying attention, throughout the country, there is a coordinated effort to push more and more anti-Second Amendment bills, again, under the guise of common sense gun safety. Now, I can make an entire video about why that term, common sense gun safety, in the context of how these people are using it is completely inaccurate, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to show you that these people are lying, as if we didn't already know that. But the fact that these people are going to state houses across the nation to lobby for their common sense gun control while they're admitting that these bills don't actually do the things that they claim it does, as in curb violence, as in go after criminals, and then you are acknowledging that the vast majority of people who own guns are not criminals, it makes you wonder, what is the point of these bills then? Like, what's the point of any of this? I have to imagine there is an ulterior motive, and I think I think that's the reality. You know, I try to be as gracious when I am critiquing groups like Moms Demand Action, because as someone who used to be a radical leftist, I can tell you that there were a lot of movements that I fell for because I legitimately believed I was doing the right thing. I was doing something that was virtuous. And I imagine there are people who latch on to these groups, or actually the other way around. I think these groups latch on to innocent people who can be easily manipulated into advocating for something that they don't quite understand what it is that they're advocating for. They're not getting the full picture. And in actuality, just to prove this point, in this exact meeting that I just showed you, these little clips, they had a segment where they gave volunteers instructions on not to communicate with the other side being the two-way side. And they do that strategically because they don't want you mingling with individuals because there is a potential you might be exposed to correct information. So you have an entire movement that is built off of misinformation, and they cannot afford you talking with other people because you just might change your mind. And it's so funny because this actually reminds me of last year at the Rhode Island State House after we had a testimony hearings for the assault weapons ban that's going through, which it's interestingly enough, the policy counselor for Everytown that you saw here in this video, she admitted that, I was in Rhode Island helping push through the assault weapons ban, and she lives in Massachusetts. Like, that's just so crazy to me that you literally are going to travel across state lines to advocate for policies in a completely different state. Like, stay over there. We don't want you. So yeah, during last year's assault weapons ban hearing, one of the volunteers from Moms Demand Action actually came up to me. This very nice old woman came up to me, and we struck up a conversation, and it was clear to me that she did not know what she was talking about. I'm so sorry, my computer just turned off, it was clear to me that she did not know what she was talking about, because she asked me if an AR-15 shoots really fast or really slow. And just that framing of the question in itself sounds bizarre. So I asked her to clarify, and she goes, oh, does an AR-15 shoot bullets one at a time, or does it shoot out a lot? And I'm like, ma'am, are you talking about a machine gun? And she said, yeah, a machine gun. Those are what AR-15s are, right? And this is what I'm talking about. You got these people who don't understand the basics about firearms, and yet they are advocating for laws, and like they don't know what they're talking about. It's wild. So now let me go. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but let me go back to this video right here. So I'm testifying, right, against a bill. I forget the number of the bill, but it's basically called the Responsible Firearms Purchasing Act. In Rhode Island, we do not have constitutional carry. We're a blue state, surprise, surprise. And we have this thing called a blue card. I don't have it on me right now, but it's pretty much, you take a 50-question test and you have to pass that prior to being able to purchase ammunition or a firearm. It's been that way for years. I want to say maybe 30, 40 years or something like that. And once you take the test and you passed it, you're good to go. You don't have to renew. So this group comes around and says, actually, we want to propose something else because we care about gun safety. No, what it's doing is it's creating more hurdles to make it harder for people to exercise their Second Amendment rights. That's really what this boils down to, because as you just heard in this video, I don't know if anyone who would go through this process to want to harm someone, we can't really weed them out. Then what is the point of this? What is the point? So yeah, they want to make this whole process so now you have to take a minimum of an 8-hour safety course, which is outrageous because you don't need 8 hours to learn about the fundamentals of shooting and safety. You just don't, coming from experience, you don't. They want a course to be mandated and created by either the Attorney General or the state police, which is, again, very bizarre given the nature of the Second Amendment is meant to be a deterrent against tyranny, and you want to give the state the ability to create that curriculum. That is wild. That is so very ballsy of you. They want to include a live fire portion of the class, and then the curriculum has to touch base on very specific materials. Okay. Now, why are they doing this, and why am I upset about this, Vanessa? Don't you care about gun safety? Let me explain. What they're trying to do, because I see right through the BS, what they're trying to do is they're trying to, again, the end goal is to do away with the Second Amendment. They'll say it's otherwise, but follow the money, follow the rhetoric. A few years ago, this exact group was very rah, no guns for everyone. And all of a sudden now it's like, oh, we're not against the Second Amendment. We just want to make a few suggestions here and there to make everyone more safe. That's crazy. So yeah, where was I going with that? Sorry. I have a taco bowl right here and I am so excited to eat it. So I'm trying to rush through this. I am a huge advocate for firearm safety. I believe there is a responsibility for everyone who owns a gun to know how to properly use it. Okay. What these groups are proposing in terms of this bill that requires you to go through this entire process before you're even eligible to get a firearm, all of that is already being taught. And oftentimes it's being taught for free or low cost by 2A advocacy groups. I know this firsthand because I am a product of one of these groups, okay? In Rhode Island, there's a group called Parabellum Provisions, and they have put on a lot of free community classes. And so now they're trying to essentially add a fee for you to access a part of the Constitution. And they don't see a problem with that. That's crazy. And it's funny because in that exact meeting, I had asked the question. I said, hey, how is this going to affect marginalized communities? Because this is a common argument is that, oh, well, Black and brown people, you know, we are more prone to living in poverty. So if that's the case, how are we, the browns and the blacks, going to be able to afford this? And this woman had the gall to say, oh, we can do a scholarship. This is so, I honestly, I'm like, these people should be nowhere near proposing legislation. Now, aside from that, here's the other piece of the puzzle that I think some people miss when they hear about gun legislation such as this. They think, okay, what's the big deal? It's all about education. My computer keeps going to sleep. I don't know why. Moms Demand Action, I'm sorry, Everytown, the group behind the Bloomberg funded group behind Moms Demand Action, they have somewhat recently started introducing their own version of firearms instructors. Okay, and this is really important. This is really, really important because for years, the NRA and the USCCA has been somewhat of, I guess you can say, the industry standard when it comes to firearm education. For me in particular, because again, I live in Rhode Island, not a constitutional carry state, I had to go through this long process to get my concealed carry. And part of that included me taking a live fire course and having an NRA instructor sign off on that to prove that I actually passed the course. And then that's totally aside from, you know, the fact that I have to get 3 references. I have to apply at the police department, have an interview, get it notarized. Like it was this whole process. But all that to say, the NRA was the first part of that process. Now imagine for a second if you had to instead go through an Everytown firearms instructor, knowing that Everytown and Moms Demand Action and their ilk all look at the gun conversation from a very particular and specific perspective. You see where this is going now? Do you understand? Okay. The next time someone tries to gaslight you and say, they're not coming for your guns, I want you to show them this video. Show them this video because they're not going to stop. Okay, they're playing the long game. Again, like I said, I know a lot of people have been swept up into movements like this, but it would be naive for us not to acknowledge the fact that there are people who claim to be all about common sense gun safety that actually just hate this country. Okay, they're Marxists, they hate this country, they want to install communism, and the only way that they can do that is if you have people that are not prepared to push back against tyrants. Okay, I mean, think about this for a second, and then I'll end the video because I really want to eat this taco bowl. Think about this for a second. In Rhode Island, again, the assault weapons ban, they're trying to ban possession. Okay, last year they gave us essentially a grandfather clause, and now they're back again saying, actually, we changed our mind and we want to ban possession now. Now, personally, I don't think this bill is going to pass. I think these people are using the media's attention of this possession ban to get a bunch of other bills passed that would essentially do the same thing by incrementally decreasing the pool of firearms in the state by adding more fees and more restrictions on top of what we already have to deal with. So I think it's a giant distraction. Now, with that in mind, it is important for you to understand that the people pushing the possession bill, the people who are pushing this Responsible Firearms Purchasing Act, were at a No Kings rally recently. Okay? Okay? These people they're either ignorant or they know what they're doing and they don't care. I'll let you take your pick. But that's exactly why I'm running for state senate, because Rhode Island deserves better. And I get it. Not everyone is going to understand the gun conversation. Maybe they don't understand the importance of the Second Amendment. That is okay. I'm not asking you to go out and get a gun. What I am asking you is to recognize that there are evil people in this world, and you cannot legislate evil away. Murder is already illegal. It doesn't matter how many anti-gun bans you get passed. Someone is still going to find a way to kill someone if they have the desire to do that, okay? Guns save lives. All right. And I believe education and not legislation is the key to firearm violence prevention. I'm all stuttering because I'm all upset and I'm ready to go. But I did a magic. I ate my taco bowl. You didn't see me. It was like TV magic. Anyways, I need to leave now. This was a longer video than I thought. See, I talk too much. All right. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. And of course, like I said, if you find it in your heart to want to support my campaign for Rhode Island Senate, I would be so grateful if you did. We got to get these people out of office. The only way to stop this is to replace them. It's as simple as that. So I hope I can earn your support and your trust. All right. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.